Welcome back to the Exorcist, Bestiary. Welcome back to the Exorcist, Bestiary. It's the fruit of the spirit season. We're talking about the fruit of the spirit, and we're talking about joy. We're filming, fun fact, so usually we film on Jamin's iPhone, and it's flipped so we can see ourselves, and now it's flipped around so we're using the back camera instead of the front-facing camera.
Higher definition.
Which is A, higher definition, and B, means I'm not going to look at the camera a single time for the whole episode, because usually I just stare at myself. And it helps me stay looking at the camera. And now that I don't have myself to stare at, the whole episode's going to look like this. Anyway, I noticed that. I'm having a moment of vulnerability and being real.
Do I need to flip the camera around?
I realize that
we're flying
now.
blind. I do. Oh, there's an axe in the door.
Oh, it's
that
fine.
So
it's going to be great. This is the episode. Oh my gosh. Okay, I was over with my little baby cousin, friend of the podcast, shout out, and she just turned 3, and I was over at her house, and her mom was telling me that she is learning about the fruits of the Spirit, and I said, Juniper, do you know about the fruits of the Spirit? She goes, I know about the fruits in the Spirit. I said, in the Spirit? Well, tell me what they are. And according to Juniper, this is the list of the fruits of the Spirit. First one, pieces, plural. Second one, gentleness.
Oh.
Kindfulness, lovefulness, controlfulness, and joy. And those are the ones that she knows. I said amazing. And she even knows the sign language for joy, and it's really cute. And I was like, I'll shout you out again when we get to the episode on controlfulness, lovefulness, and kindfulness. So that was really cute.
I think we already did lovefulness.
Oh, I guess we did already do lovefulness. Well, I didn't have that story locked and loaded yet. This happened recently. But I was like, that's really cute. So according to a 3-year-old, those are the fruits of the Spirit. And today is on the only one she got right, which is joy.
Joy. Which, how would you guys define joy? Let's start with that.
My baby cousin.
Go on.
Well, her name is Juniper Joy, which is why I think that's the one that she knows.
All right. Tasha?
Feeling of happiness.
Okay. Yeah. I remember I got freaked out a long time ago because I was just starting as a pastor, and I told my mentor, yeah, I'm going to preach on joy. I feel like our church is just so dry, and you walk in, everybody's got to be somber, got to be chill. We got to figure this out. And so I preach on joy. He's like, what do you think joy is? I was like, what do you think joy is?
Well, no, you asked that question, and then I decided to answer with a joke because in my head I panicked because my first instinct was to be like, happiness, and then I was like, wait, no, that's not a philosophical enough answer. It's got to be something bigger and different than happiness, but what and how to put it into words. And then I panicked and I just said a joke instead.
Well, I mean, it is, though. And I don't know what my professor was getting at because he never answered that at the time. But
he loves to do that.
Yeah. As I dove into it more, here's the way that a popular Catholic author would say it, James Martin. He says, in popular terminology, joy is happiness. For the religious person, joy is happiness in God. Mm-hmm. Joy is not simply a fleeting feeling or an evanescent emotion. It is a deep-seated result of one's connection to God. Although the more secular definition of joy may sometimes describe one's emotional response to an object or event, religious joy is always about a relationship. Mm-hmm. Joy as an object, and that object is God. So,
yeah, I feel like I've definitely heard it spoken about as if happiness is these positive experience that comes from external stuff. Stuff can make you happy, I don't know, things can make you happy, and then joy is something that exists regardless of situation. Things don't make you joyful, you are joyful. It's a state of being, and it comes from God. It doesn't come from the world and in the environment you're in, or stuff that you get, or the way that you feel, which happiness is kind of would be in that category as dependent upon circumstance or feeling, and then joy is dependent upon who you are and who God is.
Yeah. I think as you're saying that, something's occurring to me. I usually say this as a joke to a friend of mine, but I also mean it.
Uh-oh.
I'll text them when I'm sad, be like, I'm just going to go buy something. Like, I need to go to Target right now so I can feel happy again and just get a little Funko Pop or something.
Wow.
Look at this.
I am your
This room
Padawan
is
in
filled
more
with
ways than
depression now that you
Boy,
look at it.
you've been sad a lot.
one. Retail therapy is real.
But, like, I know when I'm saying that to them, like, I am telling the truth. Like, I'm just going to, like, go do something to make myself feel better. And also, when I say this, I recognize I'm looking to the wrong place for my answers. And that there's probably some inner healing that needs to happen here. Because I can think also, like, well, if I'm not going to buy something, then here are the other 50 ways in which I'm going to cover up my sadness. Rather than find a joyful way to unite with God to create something good. Well,
Jamin, do we need to talk?
it's an inner healing podcast. I'm just being straight about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
Emily's gonna set up a session for you.
That's probably for the best. I'll do it for everybody else. Now it's their turn.
Please, no.
But when it comes to joy, like that's a different kind of joy. It's a different kind of happiness and I think this is why the Bible talks about like a joy that passes understanding. Mm-hmm. It's because, like, I can't go to the store and buy a Funko Pop that will pass my understanding. Like, not like, that's all right, life is good again. No, because then it's just like a minute way of trying to deal with some sadness of some sort. But when you find that joy in God and you're like, why am I happy right now? Everything seems to be against me. There's no space, no logical reason as to why I should be okay right now. I don't know if you've ever had a moment like that. But that's where you're like, oh, joy is like a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Because like the world is against me and I'm okay. That doesn't make any sense. And that I think is some of the kind of things that we're trying to develop. Like, this is a deliverance podcast, but all the fruit is like kind of your antidote to whatever you're dealing with. So if I were to be dealing with a demon of Target, it's a joke. If I was dealing with a demon of shopaholicism or
We're
something,
getting sued by Target.
No, I was going to say, if more people watch this podcast, that would be a dangerous statement to make.
I have a vision of a little red dog with a target around his eye.
First of all, he's a little white dog with a red target on his eye. If he was
Clifford.
a red dog.
I got confused with Clifford for a minute there.
Now we're getting sued by Clifford. It's fine.
No one,
fine.
there's no way
Clifford
enough
the big red demon.
There's no way that enough
going
people watch this
sideways.
podcast for us to get sued by anyone.
In that case,
Jamin.
what were we talking about?
Clifford the
don't
big
know.
red demon.
Right. You're trying to cultivate the opposite of what demons would cultivate. Mm-hmm. So, like, if a demon's going to cultivate depression or sadness or that dark hole that so many people are used to, part of what you need to develop instead is a joy that passes understanding, a peace that passes understanding. I know peace that passes understanding is the actual phrase what we're looking for, but I think all the qualities can come in this way. Love that passes understanding, gentleness that passes understanding, and joy when you're not feeling like you should have joy, like that. That's a strange scriptural thing that happens to people. Like when the disciples, they just saw Jesus die. Now he's come back to life. Mm-hmm. Now they're telling people about him. And then they start to whip them. And they're like, don't talk about that again. And then the disciples come out of that moment and they take joy because they've been persecuted and they feel worthy of the cause. You're like, not the fruit you were expecting to come out of that moment, you know? But sometimes those kinds of things can have the reverse effect when you're really grounded in Jesus. So.
Right. Which I guess, how would you go about like fostering and practicing joy? Because I think in my life, in the past, it's kind of been like, I need to be joyful. All right, every time something bad happens to me, I'm going to grit my teeth and pretend that it didn't, and I'm going to say that I'm happy until I feel that I'm happy. And I'm just going to ignore all of the things that are making me feel sad, which obviously not effective, not the way to do it.
No, that'd be like a name it and claim it kind of thing, right? Which doesn't, like, why aren't you wearing your glasses? Well, I'm claiming my healing on my eyes. Well, but they're not healed.
That's like how I'm low-key allergic to pineapple, and every time I eat it, I think, I'll be fine. I can't be that allergic to pineapple. And then I have to take medicine because my throat gets really itchy and I can't breathe.
Oh. Well, yeah, so.
But I had pineapple on my pizza yesterday. And every time I'm like, I'm not like, I'm gonna die allergic. I think I can grow out of this allergy if I just keep eating pineapple. Which is that's an example, I guess, of what not to do with joy. Or
well, yeah, I mean, what would you guys do? Because it's not like you're trying to fake joy. Have you been around someone faking joy before?
Yeah.
Some people are very, very good at it. Where they're just feeling really out of sync on the inside. But on the outside, they found a way. And in that case, that's usually what they need inner healing from, because it's a coping mechanism to hide myself from other people. If they think I'm really happy all the time, they'll never see the sadness underneath.
Oh, yeah.
In which case, like, you're just kind of blocking stuff. So the joy that the Spirit wants to cultivate isn't like a pretending to be happy or like a lean into it until you get it kind of thing. It's more of like a, I don't know, how might you cultivate it? The Bible talks about counting your blessings. So there might be this space to, like, I'm going to renew my mind to what's good instead of what's bad. Sometimes if I sense the Spirit's trying to tell me something and I'm in the midst of like a really difficult time that's really pushing me towards like a depressive side of things, I'll quickly make a wallpaper for my phone, and I'll just set it as the wallpaper. So every time that I open it up, it's a reminder of whatever prophetic word I got that told me it was like God. Like right now, my phone wallpaper is this one that's telling me, like, I'm going to walk with you through this season. Now, I could just stay focused on the season, in which case every time I think about it, I'm going to be depressed and sad. Or I put my attention on God, who says, I'm going to be there with you. I renew my mind to all the ways in which he's shown me that in the past. And no longer am I as focused on that, though it's there, but I'm giving my mind over to a space where I can now cultivate something happier, less depressive, and even find joy in the moment because my mind is no longer sucked in that black hole. So, yeah. What are some other techniques that come to your guys' mind cultivating joy?
I think for me, a big thing is like a reminder of things that I have beaten in the past, because a lot of the struggle with being joyful, I think, comes from a lot like external stuff. Like, oh, I'm in a bad situation. Bad things are happening to me right now. And I definitely was the queen of the grin and bear it. And I had in the absolute worst moments of my whole entire life that were miserable and terrible. I definitely had lots and lots of people being like, you're such a sunshine person. You just always have a song in your heart and you're like a Disney princess and da da da. Because I was really, really good at lying. And then when I that method of like, I'm gonna do it until it happens for real. I'm gonna pretend until it happens for real. If enough people tell me that I'm full of joy, one day I will be. And that didn't work. And so for me, I had to do a little bit of some spiritual healing myself, which I've talked about on this podcast. And then after that, I was kind of like, oh, the worst thing that ever happened to me and the worst thing that I could ever imagine going through, I went through, and then I did it, and I'm on the other side of it. And that's crazy, because there were many, many, many points where I was like, I will never feel different than how I feel right now. I will be unjoyful and miserable forever, just because the situation I was in, it was pretty rough. And now, whenever I start to get those whispers of feelings again, of being like, man, it's really rough right now, I go, hang on, you've been through the worst thing you've ever been through. You've been through it. You did it. it was over. God pulled you out. God pulled you in a place more and put you in a place more beautiful than anything you ever could have imagined or anything you ever thought was possible. And so for me, a lot of the joy now, even in the like stuff that's really hard and in like the midst of craziness, the joy kind of is encouraged by and like fostered by the fact that like God has pulled me through many, many, many things before and has pulled me through worse things before. And so now, in the stuff I'm in right now, I can still have joy because I know like this isn't the thing that's going to be permanent. God is the thing that's going to be permanent. The feelings and the situation aren't the thing that's going to last forever. God is going to last forever. And then that helps the joy come a little bit more freely.
Yeah. I think even in this office of mine, there are little trinkets and symbols from stories that I can keep in front of me to keep me grounded in the kinds of things he's already done. So even when I'm just naturally in a space, there are things to redirect my mind back to it. There's a framed, someone was praying for me, wrote this whole letter to me that's framed over there to remind me of what God spoke to them that felt really surreal for me. A letter from a friend who wrote something right there that spoke a lot of identity over me about what they see God up to in my life.
My own song lyrics on the wall, shout out me.
Yep, which is, I put that there, like that's a story, those are the words, and it has a space, like I can look right there and see the joy of God in those moments. So there's ways, I mean, my wallpaper on my phone's trying to keep me grounded. These things are trying to keep me grounded. The things that you just said, those are stories you recall to mind to keep you grounded. Those are ways to kind of, to fight. I've said this before too, but there's other ways to which you can try to take happiness as your combative tool with the darkness. People tend to be healthier when they're in communities, not when they're isolated, right? We've talked about that.
True.
I've said several times I used to fall asleep to cartoons because those were just happier, comedic, joyful spaces to be rather than the dark thoughts of my mind at night. Like, so there's strategies too when you know when those depressive moments are.
Yeah.
What do you do to try to combat that a little bit? One guy said in a book I read that his therapist told him that his like prescription he wrote him was you need to watch Seinfeld once every night before you go to bed. And that for him like changed the way that he went to sleep. He was in a much happier place.
Okay.
Amity doesn't like Seinfeld is the read I'm getting here.
No, I think I've seen like one episode of it ever, and it didn't really strike me as great.
Oh, okay. I only tried the first season and then I couldn't handle it anymore. I hear it gets better though. I don't know.
Everyone always says that about every TV show. I think for me, so like there are sometimes like maybe coping mechanism is the wrong word, but like I do know that there are things that are guaranteed to put me in a positive mindset, and I think that there are sometimes things that I can like lean into in an unhealthy way. So like I love to spend money and that can very quickly become like no longer is it like just gently pushing me into a positive mindset. That's maybe an unhealthy coping mechanism. But I do know that there are things that like are often co-opted by God that like put me into a positive mindset. So like seeing my baby cousin 100% of the time will always, always, always be the highlight of the day. And like spending time like with her and spending time with my family in general, like I know that is going to put me into a really positive place. So like sometimes if I'm feeling really bummed, I talk to my aunt, I talk to my grandma, I say, can I come and hold your baby, please? And that's gonna be great. Being outside is also huge for me. I specifically took a job where I'm literally outside all of the time and I never go inside even when it's snowing and raining because I know that is just good for me and good for my brain. Listening to my own music that I wrote because all of the music that I wrote comes from the stories of victory that God has won for me.
I think that you were spot on when you said, where's the joy coming from? There's a lot of things that can bring you joy. If I'm frustrated with my children, listing the ways in which, I love them, or I'm frustrated with my husband, listing the things that I love about him, it helps. if I'm struggling with finances, listing the way that God's blessed us with finances in the past, the ways that he's caught us, the ways that he's blessed us through people, it helps. But I think it goes back to, it goes back to my very first deliverance. I've had many. In the first one, it was after we got all the way through, and I didn't even actually realize it until I got home, and I was telling my husband about it, and he said, "What's wrong with you? You're smiling like all the time. What's going on?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just happy." And I just was in a way that I didn't know that I wasn't. And it's a different kind of happiness. And that's the happiness that doesn't move. But that doesn't, don't get it twisted. You have bad days. When my brother passed away, I was not happy. I was still saved. I was still, bought and loved and, cared for by God. And there's that happiness that will never move. But I was not happy in that moment. And I think as Christians, we have a tendency to think that we need to smile and put, a good face on everything. There's this person in my life who was like this really strong Christian person. And anytime you had a bad day, they'd just grab your shoulder and be like, "Smile." And I just wanted to punch him in the face. Because, dang it, I didn't want to smile. I was having a bad day. I don't want to fake it, And so that wasn't particularly joyful of me. But I think that it's okay to be sad and to struggle, but that doesn't mean that joy goes away. That doesn't mean that I stop being saved. That doesn't mean that I stop being happy about being saved and set free. I think it's just where that joy is coming from, and do we rest in it and trust in it, that joy is enough in the face of our sorrow and our pain, that joy is enough to carry us through.
The line, I became happy in a way I didn't know I wasn't, is so good.
Yeah.
That's like, I feel like that's exactly what it feels like, because it's hard to describe the difference between a superficial happiness and a deep rooted joy.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe with words the way that feels different, but that I feel wraps it up. I didn't know that I wasn't, I didn't know that this was a feeling I was capable of until it happened.
Which I think maybe if we look back throughout our lives, we can pinpoint some of those moments.
Yeah.
Which they seem a little odd to us at first because we're so used to that, if someone's having a spiritual moment, happiness is not what we think is going to happen. And I think that has something to say about our view of God. It's going to be somber. It's going to be...
Oh, yeah. Everyone's crying. Everyone's reflective. Everyone's stoic.
And that's what we gauge a good church worship service around. Did we get everybody to cry today? Then we think we've accomplished something. But biblically speaking, that's not
That's not what I think about.
Yeah.
I think about if we're doing worship, I'm like, oh, I hope people start clapping.
I think when I was at Cornerstone Festival in Illinois, I bought a sweater. It's 90 degrees in the dance barn. The DJs from Sweden are playing their music, and I'm dancing everywhere in a sweater. The best worship experience I've ever had in my life to this moment. And I'm sweating alive. But the joy of God was just so inexpressible in that moment. I'm like, man, to think that you could bump into God in a happy space like that, who knew? But sometimes I think people in the Bible expected that more than we think. David dancing in his underwear, it's humiliating, but also kind of strikes you as seems like he's not bothered by this. Seems like maybe he's having the time of his life. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to the book of Nehemiah, but there's one statement in it that always struck me because everybody comes around while they're working on putting the temple back together, and then people are weeping, and Nehemiah tells them, this day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep. And you're like, what? Like, isn't that when we weep the most? Like, the holiness of God. No, but instead he says, go your way, eat the fat, drink sweet wine, send portions to anyone who has nothing ready, for this day is holy. Like, don't be grieved. Get excited.
Have a free Methodist potluck.
It's just interesting to think, like, in Nehemiah's mind, like, joy and holiness go together. How dare you be sad on the Sabbath, you know? Like, how dare you be sad in the presence of the Lord? And it's not like only one way or the other. Obviously, we go through a whole range of emotions, but
it reminds me of the first time I attended a Pascha service with the Orthodox Church, because I was dabbling there for a minute in the Church of Orthodoxy, which I love, big fan of Orthodoxy, and my friends who are Orthodox invited me to a Pascha service, and they were like, oh, it's our Easter celebration, and then the whole service. I was like expecting the whole service to kind of be this one note where it started in the dark, and there was all of these like beautiful ceremonial things that were happening with incense and happening with candles, and there was like marching, and there was these like kind of like somber prayers, and I was like, yes, what I have been accustomed to expecting from like deeply reverent church experiences. Like, this is kind of like the note of like holiness and closeness with God, is this like dark and contemplative, not dark as in like creepy, dark as in the lights were off, and contemplative, like holy, quiet space. And then the service totally changed immediately, and everyone was partying, and they were like running around the sanctuary, like speaking out like Christ has risen in like 20 different languages, and there was like all of this call and response, and it was all of this beautiful stuff. And then afterwards we had like a party, and everybody was doing like wedding dances and circles in the middle of their like sanctuary hall, and everybody was like having fun, and it was like so the definition of like eat, drink, and be merry. And it was like, this is a crazy like party to be a part of in like a church. Like, this feels like this shouldn't be, you know, connected to like this holiness, but like it's a celebration of the resurrection of Jesus. So like it's like the thing to be the most party about ever in your whole life. And I was just like, wow, this is joy. This is like holy and divine joy in this space right now. So it was kind of like, I kind of like get that Nehemiah kind of like commandment of like, don't be like quiet and contemplative and sad and weeping. Like, get up and party. The joy of the Lord is here.
sometimes I think the Hobbits and Lord of the Rings do a good job of embodying this kind of religion, if you will. Because if you're reading through Lord of the Rings, you'll just be reading when suddenly they burst into song about something that just happened. You're like, is it commonplace to just make up a song like you're on? Hobbits. Like it feels like Broadway, you know? But the Bible does that too, and I know it's just partially it's the way that they're writing it out. Like someone gave me this song, I inserted it in the narrative, but when you read it, it's usually funny. Like, hey, Mary, how you doing?
No, it's like Frodo is like, the burden is so strong. I've given over to the shadow of darkness. And then Merry and Pippin are like, we found potatoes on the road. do. Let's all smoke.
It'll happen in the Bible too, though. Like Mary's Magnificat. That's all that happens in the Bible? No. But Mary's Magnificat comes like out of nowhere.
Mary and Pippin's Magnificat.
Yeah. How you doing, Mary? Oh, well, let me tell you, the Lord. And you're like, what? Mary, what's going on?
That's so true. Yeah. It makes me feel a little bit better that the one note I get about making music from everyone is that it sounds like Broadway.
Well, the Bible has its Broadway
sorry
moments.
that I'm in line with Scripture.
Well, think about it. After they cross the Red Sea, I think it's Miriam who just suddenly like, time to sing. You know, it's like, but that's that kind of like joy. Like, it's just so overwhelmed with it. It has to go somewhere, or you're going to explode. You know, it's like an energy of sorts. Which is funny because even like in the more charismatic side of the church, there are phenomena that is wrapped up in just joy type activities. So like one of the most popular phenomena is just called holy laughter. It's usually what people refer to it as. Where like someone will start laughing uncontrollably out of nowhere, and it starts to pick up until suddenly tons of people are just laughing and they can't stop. I remember we were doing a worship night at our church once, and there were 2 students just against the back wall, lying on the floor, rolling around, laughing, unable to control it. My mentor was at a big conference. It was just a guy on stage talking, when suddenly him and the students he brought to the conference start laughing while this guy is talking, and then it keeps growing. They can't stop it until it starts to move around the whole room. And now there's hundreds of people just cracking up under the movement of the Spirit while the guy on stage is trying to preach and the ushers are trying to make people like it's a phenomenon of God. And when I think of like, why don't you heal that lady in the wheelchair over there? And God be like, I have a different way people need to heal right now. Laugh, dang it. Like that feels like
but it is healing. Laughter,
it is.
There's
Scientists will tell you that
yeah.
there's stuff going on there with your brain releasing all of the tension and things like that. And God likes to do that. He likes to bring people into those spaces and then just make people laugh forever. So,
can I share a story that's?
Please do.
I shouldn't.
Please, no.
This is
please
not
do.
godly.
Double please do.
But, go ahead.
Okay, so this is not godly. It's gonna get cut. My mom and
What
I.
a great prerequisite.
My mom and dad and I. We went to the Parent Trap, the new one. Okay, and so
The new one, like 25 years ago.
Not the Haley Berry one. The one after that,
The one with the Olsen twins?
maybe.
The stepmom in that Parent Trap is on Dancing with the Stars this season, and she is so good.
You talking about It
Yeah.
Takes Two?
No, we're talking about the Parent Trap with the little redheads.
Okay, so we're there, and it's Parent Trap. He doesn't know. It's my story.
Go on.
Just talking.
Go for it. Tell us about the Parent Trap.
Okay, so we're watching the Parent Trap. Okay, and the butler comes on the screen. Well, he's around a pool, and he's got a Speedo on, and I start cracking up. And Mom's going, honey, stop it. And I go, Mom. She goes, what is going on? And I'm like, the butler. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, the butler. She's like, what's going on? I'm, the butler has a wedgie. I said it so loud. She started laughing. The people behind us started laughing. And then it moved through the whole movie theater. And we're all laughing about the butler's wedgie. And it's passed already. And it was a movement. I'm not sure of the Holy Spirit. But it was contagious.
Now imagine that happens, but you're on stage trying to talk about God. That whole story that you told, I was like sitting there being like, this is my nightmare, this is my nightmare, this is my nightmare.
The butler's butt.
It's hilarious.
I'm not cutting that out of the podcast.
Yeah, that's great.
That was too long.
That is the one with the Olsen twins in it.
Those are the moments where like there's like a movement of joyful energy, and for whatever reason you're afraid to have those moments in church where it actually belongs. Maybe not the Speedo, but you know
what Jamin's wearing on Sunday. Holy laughter.
I'm gonna be sick that day. I just heard.
Great. No, I might be sick myself, to be honest.
I have a question to move us in a different direction.
I don't think we should.
Speedos?
Yeah, no, thank you.
That was loud purposely.
So our video that we did talking about love, we spent a long time talking about like love is so good, love is from God, love is la 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 la, all this great stuff, and then didn't connect it at all to exorcism. So I guess my question is like, what is the place for joy? Because this is the Exorcist, Bestiary, your premier podcast on deliverance and spiritual healing. What is the space for like joy as a tool, or maybe joy as a result, or like why is joy an important fruit for us to foster as like people helping with deliverance ministry?
Yeah.
I'm asking Jamin because he's the one who probably knows the answer to this.
Well, when we get together to do inner healing, stuff is so there's a lot of difficult stuff you got to move through to get
Right.
through it, And to think like that I'm being healed from all this pain to just go on living a somber, painful, sad life would be strange.
Crazy.
So you should expect, as you're healing from the pain, you're actually creating more space in your life for something like joy to be made manifest. Because it's hard to have joy when you're also carrying around a lot of baggage at the same time. But as that baggage goes, it makes a space that wasn't there before to be filled with something else. Like, it's not uncommon that when we're praying for people, once we get a demon out, we'll then pray like, Holy Spirit, would you come fill that space? Think of that, like if the Spirit's fruit is joy, then you should think of whatever was filling that space before with all that bitterness and hatred and pain and sadness and depression. We're now asking the Spirit, who wants to grow things like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, to fill that same spot up. So places where there was never a chance for joy to be available in your life now has a space to be filled up with more potential of joy than you had before. Right? If you were to picture yourself as like a container that the Holy Spirit's being poured into, if there's already stuff in the container, then that stuff the Holy Spirit would have to mix in with, if you will. But if you can strain all that stuff out and then pour the Holy Spirit in, then you have more potential for something that you didn't have before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a broken analogy, but you're creating the space for joy to be present where it couldn't in the first place. And it's also, it's hope to people that you're working with. Like, I understand, like, depression is a much bigger conversation about medication and all kinds of things, which we're not against. But we all, I think every human has dealt with depression in some way as well. And to know that God is not looking to fill you up with more of that, but looking to relieve you of that and give you something that's grounded in Him that will turn your attention toward more of the fullness of joy that you've wanted to experience. Like, that stuff, I think it just has the space to be really contagious. That when Tasha gets home and is like, why are you always smiling all the time? Like, that has a space to really make an impact on others, where you no longer feel like you have to fake it, but you can be yourself, you can be around others, and they are then impacted by your joy, and joy is just contagious, has the space to really change the atmosphere of any place that you're in, right? You see that with comedians all the time. They get on the stage. Half the time when I see a comedian, I'm like, is this a spiritual gift? Like, I've never got in front of people and just made them laugh for 90 minutes straight without stopping. But they have the potential to, like, work things so perfectly to have this just overwhelming sense of joy move throughout the theater until everybody's caught up in it.
Yeah.
And that's something that Spirit cares about. So
I can think of 2 points in exorcism where I really see it and have experienced it. Is one in the freedom moment. You can see it on people. When they experience freedom, it is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful, and you see it on their face. Not only their face, you can see it, their shoulders lift, their head comes up. They just feel joyful and free and wonderful. And 2 is when they're meeting with Jesus, and, no matter what they're dealing with, just meeting with the creator of the universe is something wondrous. And experiencing that myself, the joy was undescribable. I just immediately started weeping with joy. But also seeing it on other people's face when they see Jesus, and that Jesus wants to meet with them. Jesus wants to speak with them. Jesus cares about them. He cares about what they care about. It's beautiful, and I just love those 2 joy moments in exorcism.
yeah. And to some extent, like, if being healed is becoming more like Jesus, then look at His life and see where joy was all over it. Like he partied with people everywhere. He was accused of being a drunkard and a glutton because that was the impression. That was the impression people got of him by how he dined with everyone. When he was getting ready to go, he looked at a glass of wine and said, "You know what? That thing's me." He's filling up the marriage party at the start with more wine. And this isn't about drinking, but it's about, you see Jesus like in the spaces where people are used to having a good time and being present. And yeah, he faces his own bitter moments. Like he's not in the Garden of Gethsemane like, oh, I just got to be so happy right now. Why can't I be happy? Oh, I'm bleeding through my I'm sorry, God, for bleeding through my, no, he embraces everything that comes his way, but he is seen in the scriptures as someone that religious people don't want to be around and everybody else does, because it just seems like he's always having a good time. He's treating people like they're human. I haven't been to many meals that are depressing unless it's a church meal. Sorry.
Whoa.
Sorry. Once you religify anything, it has so much potential to lose its joy. I remember there was a time people were like, we're going to put together this meal, this little spaghetti thing, and like everybody's just coming and eating quietly. It's like, this is horrible. I was like, I'm got to find some way to cheer this place up, because there's nothing wrong with the happiness, the cheer, the fun, the laughter. That is Christian community, and was very much how the church did church in the early days. It was more of like a meal. You got together and you ate and you talked, and you had communion with all of that as a part of the meal. So when the early church made the whole display of what Christian engagement looks like, eating and drinking together, that's a much different view than us getting together and like seeing who can have the best worship stank face and feel the most like pressed into, I'm having the spiritual experience that the rest of you aren't, that kind of
Could never be me.
Well,
I'm swirling around.
Yeah, you do it in the joyful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of, what was Jesus's focus on, and Jesus's focus, I would think, would be on, it's almost here. My relationship is almost, fixed with these people. This, my children are almost home, and keeping his eyes on that. And that's where he could derive his joy from, while saying, God, can we do this another way, and still being happy that this is going to happen no matter what. This is the plan. This is, God's plan. This is going to happen. Can we do it another way? And when the answer is no, accepting that, and holding on to that joy of the end of it. But it doesn't mean that he didn't grieve, that it wasn't hard. But his focus was yet on, the end.
Yeah. And once you get there, just some things are just very different. There was one guy who talked about a missionary story that he heard. There was a missionary who was about to be beheaded, martyred, and they were just cracking up about it. And when they asked him, like, why are you laughing? They were like, I'm just, what did they say? I was just thinking how ridiculous my head would look rolling down the hill. And it's like, how could you say that, when any of us are facing about to be beheaded? But here's this person who's just like so engaged with God that in this moment, their mind is put in you can't handle this, can you?
I'm just thinking, rolling.
Whoa!
I'm sorry. I think my spirit of joy is broken.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe. I don't know. You're lucky she laughed about it, or. But there are these strange stories in persecution where people still seem to be like in a joyful state, and whether they're in prison or about to face the end or something else, and that might be maybe the fruit of the Spirit showing itself in the strangest places as a way to witness to the people who are martyring them for them to be like, there's something very strange and different about this Christian movement kind of thing. So, yeah. And you got Paul bragging about all the bad things that happens to him, It's like, here's why I'm actually the best. You have any idea how many times I've been shipwrecked and all these other things?
Paul just liked to make lists, I think.
But even in those lists, like, he continues to press forward. He doesn't seem like, I just hate my life. No, he takes those as like, these are moments as to why what I'm doing matters. And like, that's something that you can only find when the Spirit is kind of bolstering you in joy and things like that.
And Paul and Silas in chains singing.
Oh, yeah. Singing while in jail, things like that. Mm-hmm.
They were singing Golden by K-pop Demon Hunters. That's how the prison doors ripped open. They were sealing the moon.
That seemed less messed up than Rollin', Rollin', Rollin'. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we've hit it quite a bit on joy today. I think one of the things that I encourage people on is if you are used to thinking joy is this bad thing because the church that you go to just feels like it's always like trying to be serious at all times. Like church is the one place where we're, maybe not the one place, but it's one of the strongest places where like kids don't run here. Like this is just the place where things are supposed to just be only put together, no fun, nothing like that. And when you look at the way that Jesus lived his life, did his ministry, the way that the early church lived into it, like they found that joy that you could find that went beyond understanding sometimes. So
that's so funny to like think about. Even like, churches are really serious and summer, as like all three of us go to Nerd Church, which is a church for nerds where we play silly card games and then go get half off appetizers.
And talk about Jesus.
And we talk about Jesus.
We missed the middle part.
And we talk about Jesus, and a lot of times we talk about like the Nephilim and like all this stuff in the Bible that we're like, what's the weirdest thing that we could conjure up a conversation about? And it's just like, that feels like church done a really, really right way. And a lot of the like kind of like rigorous, like, and we have to have this certain sort of attitude about God, and we can only be reverent, and we can never be happy. We can only be, bowing down in fear, and we can never be like dancing and partying and da-da-da-da. Feels like that is missing a lot of the picture.
Well, and that's why I think small groups fail so often. It's because people get together, it's like, all right, let's read the Bible, everybody. I know.
You just made hanging out with my friends not fun anymore for the first time ever.
There's been several times. The only thing that I have done at this church for the last 14 years that never stopped was party at my house every Thursday.
That's because you're a really good cook and you feed us for free.
Well, we also just we hang out, we eat, we play games, and it's deeply spiritual. But there have been several times where I've tried to put a Bible study into it to see what would happen, and it just kills the room. Like, everything is just like, I don't even know who you guys are anymore. Who's Jesus? Like, I'm the pastor, and I forgot. Because it just gets so awkward all of a sudden that it's like, let's pretend to be so super spiritual when we were being spiritual before that moment. But one of the things that I love about Nerd Church, since you brought it up, nowhere else.
Church for nerds.
Nowhere else can I be like, hey, we're going to pause and have a 90-minute conversation about Jesus, where people wouldn't kill me for that. But at Nerd Church, people are usually like even speaking into it. It's part of the reason it goes for 90 minutes is because we've fostered a joyful environment where we're not going to judge each other for what they say mostly. And we're going to give the space for everybody to just kind of like add into the conversation, have a good time, give their thoughts, crack a joke.
And put it on Amity's quotes.
And put it in a list of quotes that none of you can ever see. And I think that's a lot of the way that Jesus did ministry. I think they had to like being around him with how much they were. Yeah.
Sing your joy song.
Which one?
The one you wrote about joy.
Joy, and we can dig it with the love on our lips so loud to come and sing it with the peace and the friend that passes understanding. This must be heaven.
Booyah.
This has been another episode of the Exorcist Bestiary. That's what I wanted to go out on. I should have asked if anyone had any more thoughts before we just cut hard to that.
Tasha?
You know this.
Great, then we're just going to cut hard to that.